Rimuru reincarnated into another world by Kischur. Gathering. The Kingdom of Arcadia Tempest, or more commonly thought as the Empire of Arcadia Tempest because of its sheer size, especially considering its actual size and official size is so different from each other that most nations would just consider the actual size to be the true size. The reason for this is because of how Tempest is structured. By the fourth king of Tempest was the one who expanded the territory of the kingdom the most, with him also being seen by most as the most warlike of the rulers of Tempest. With him essentially forming most of Tempest's current official size, which if Rimuru were to compare it, is currently as large as the Eastern Empire in terms of size itself, but that's what the official size says, since the actual size starts diverging from that now. There are 10 territories that surround the entire kingdom of Arcadia Tempest, with them all very obviously very big enough to be able to surround the entire kingdom of Arcadia Tempest, with them not being, formally, allied or owned by the kingdom itself. But considering their strong relationship with one another, and that it is very much common to see the kings of this territories always go to the meeting of the kingdom's meetings and such, it became very much apparent that these 10 inches kings are viewed as just extremely strong nobles that existed for the sole reason for defense itself, which has been confirmed when the 27th King Fiamma Tempest decided to reveal that the 10 inches kings were in fact a part of Tempest nobility, with the 10 very much confirming this information. And despite it being confirmed information, the 10 territories don't actually merge with the Kingdom of Tempest, with them staying and operating like their own independent nations without the influence and supervision of Tempest itself. The only thing that are actually the same are the laws itself, and also secretly the Shadow Corps also evaluating the entire 10 territories as well. Because of that, many, even to this day, still view the 10 territories as independent nations without any form of relationship with Tempest, except for the fact of their close relationship and ties to one another. Because of this fact, the 10 inches kings were awarded the rank of Archduke, with each one of them having authority that is only surpassed by the king himself. And to further strengthen the hold of the royal family over this territories, is to have blood relation with each one of them, which has caused them to be cousins and such, and very much also legitimate claim to the throne as well, which the royal family didn't really mind that fact for the simple reason that they know that the main line house would always be in the throne for the simple fact of their wisdom that they acquired from the goddess Sophia. And for many centuries no new archdukes was created, since no new massive territories was actually created, but that changed a few years ago, when the kingdom acquired quite a bit of land from the kingdom of Estage, Mesmori and the church as well, which has extended their already large territory to an even bigger one as well. Of course, when this news was heard and spread, the public only celebrated at their win over said territories for no reason at all, since they were just happy that the kingdom was continuing its prosperity, and as for the nobles, they were the complete opposite. They were having a silent war on who would acquire the territory, since the chances of actually becoming an archduke is large, and the ability to become a part of the royal family in some way is very appealing, and strangely enough as well, the 10 archdukes didn't actually try to fight over the territory to be theirs since the chances of them acquiring it is quite large, especially with their track record and already proven skills. But considering that they weren't trying to take it, they tried to take the territory for themselves, but as the fighting was continuing, Alfred just came out of nowhere and announced that 3 of his children would be taking the roles of rulers. And it was an announcement that enraged the nobles, with the sole exception of some of the smaller nobles and the archdukes themselves, since to them, it was a simple and illogical decision to actually give such a vast land to 3 unproven children. Sure, they are wise, with their blessings from goddess Sophia, but that doesn't mean that they would be skilled enough to become respectable rulers, especially the state of the territories that they were given, which is poor and unsuited to be managed by newcomers in politics and being a ruler. And this issue to them was very much projected to King Alfred, who shut them down with a mere glare and threat of taking away their territories, which has caused them to back off. Of course, they still did oppose the king's decisions for choosing his own children to be the rulers of said new territories, especially Rimuru Tempest, who was the youngest of his own children. But they still backed off though. Of course that doesn't mean that they would let up, especially on the youngest child. The reason for this is for 2 reasons. For one, the territory she was given is by far the most troublesome to work with, and has the less resources and opportunities, out of the 3 territories that they acquired. Of course the 3 are less than ideal to have a territory on, but at least Mesmori territory has access to the ocean, and the church territory has access to some farmland, but the territory of Estage has little of that, or none at all. And add the fact that she is the youngest, they are obviously going to target her to step away from the territory itself, but unexpectedly enough though, Rimuru just ignored their harsh words and went to her territory. Of course some nobles became brave and tried to verbally discourage her and even some verbally abused her to try to acquire the territory themselves, but Rimuru only looked upon them with a smile on her face and said, "Are you done? If so, I advise you to not speak of such words again." Musical note, since after all, I don't know what would happen to you in the future. Musical note. After that there have been news of said noble's death, with the only thing that they know for sure was that a maid and a child always showed up in the nobleman household. Currently both the maid and the child has been in intense investigation to find out why they have done what they did. But such investigations hasn't borne fruit, and has been the shame of the investigation unit of the kingdom ever since. For that reason, the nobles has back off momentarily, with them seeking other ways to become connected to the siblings so that they would bring up their noble ranked as a sign of massive contributions, but the problem is that they didn't take on any sort of help from the nobles, and instead took from the kingdom itself for resources and money problems that they needed. And the problems that they created because of this is that the nobles sees it as them stealing from the nation itself without giving any back to them. And the worst part is that they can't even use the citizens to protest against the royal family, since they are so loyal to the royal family itself, and with them being given the blessings of wisdom from the goddess Sophia, the citizens view them as the perfect royal family. Since generations after generations, the royal family has been doing things for the kingdom's citizens' benefits, so to them, this one action is also another benefit for the kingdom. It's for this reason why the kingdom of Tempest is so powerful and is placed into a grand pedestal compared to other nations, is that the citizens are so loyal to the royal family itself, and how patriotic they are to the kingdom and to the royal family itself. And unexpectedly, the three royal children was able to recover and rule their territory with grace, skills and authority as thought they were the king of Tempest themselves, with each one of their territories very much prospering and became one of the richest territories that Tempest has, which is very impressive, despite the centuries or even millennia of being already formed, and were rightfully taken out of their place in the rankings. The one that Avalon Arcadia Flavius Tempest took over was the territory of the church, with her being able to take advantage of her territory's little advantages as possible, with her being able to change it and reached its current heights today, which very much suits her taste and desires, which is food. Out of the current Tempest royal family, she is by far the most gluttonous, with her being the one who regularly eats the largest amounts. For that reason she very much focused on food productions above most things, with the only thing that actually surpassed her focused being cleanliness and protections, since it's her belief to be able to enjoy food the most, then everything must be cleaned and known that nothing would go wrong as well. And add in the amount of money the Tempest was giving her, she was able to transform the entire territory to be the food center of the entire world, with it having the highest quality ingredients and chefs one could ask, with the kingdom even having something called food wars, which is basically cooking duels and such. And unknown to many, because of her decisions and with it being the food capital of the mortal world, the deities of food has become very interested in the territory of Flavius, with Avalon even acquiring a blessing from a god of food as well. The one that Kevin Arcadia Caslana Tempest took over was the territory of Mesmori, with him being able to take advantage of the sea, with him being able to effectively make use of the sea to create a massive port city, with it very much prospering immensely because of the trade that he could acquire and make deals with. But, much like the other Tempest, he too also managed the entire territory to suit his taste, and in this case, his taste was two sports, especially extreme sports, and since his appointment as the ruler of the Caslana territory, the entire territory has become known to host the grandest and greatest sports events in the world now, especially his heavy involvement in it. It also didn't help that the Flamechasers would also be judges to this events, with the most favored being the water sports, which has caused them to only wear swimsuits and trunks, which is very much liked by both genders, especially the busty ones like Elysia. Then the last, but not least, is the territory of Rimuru Arcadia Gloria Tempest. She has by far the worst territory going by opportunities, but also has the greatest ease of rulership as well. Because of how Estage is set up, and how they viewed themselves as failures, and how beautiful Rimuru is, they all quickly accepted her as their ruler without any problems whatsoever, with them even being fine of killing themselves if they were ordered to. Because of this, and with her own intellect and experience, she was able to raise the territory of Gloria to become one of the most richest territories in the Kingdom of Tempest, with her turning her entire territory to be the most business-friendly territory in the entire world, with it very much encouraging businesses and startups. And much like the others, she too also ruled the entire territory to her liking as well, with her territory having the most events and festivals as well, with her very much liking festivals and such, and is as such crowned the festival king of the world as a result of the number of festivals it has. And so right now, another noble meeting has came and about, with every noble and archduke participating in the event, which has also called forth the Tempest siblings as well to be back to the capital city, as it is the meeting place for the meeting place after all. Right now in the capital city of the Kingdom of Tempest, has currently in a festive mood, with said streets and homes being very much decorated and such. The reason for this festive mood is because of the gathering of the noble families to the castle. And add in the fact that 4 of the royal children would also return as a massive celebration as well, especially the victory that the youngest has done. Have you heard, the 3 new archdukes are also entering this nobles meeting as well. Of course. This isn't even news, this is a fact that would eventually happen when they acquired their current territories. Well, I'm sure that this isn't something that you know about. Have you heard of the prince's current escapade? Quote. The prince's current escapade. Oh, are you talking about that researcher that Prince Kevin suddenly hired out of nowhere? Quote. Yeah, the athletic Prince of Tempest, suddenly taking very high interest of a relatively unknown researcher under him. It would be quite the story to tell. The gossip increased, about the prince and the researcher. In truth it has become quite an enjoyable love story to hear about, with many articles and sightings the two far too close of a bond together. It's because of that, it is generally seen that the two would become a couple of sorts in the future, with the Flamechasers seemingly supporting their relationship as well. Have you heard Princess Avalon? Quote. Oh, are you talking about the rumor? Quote. Well, another gossip seemed to sprout for the 3 royal prince and princesses these days. Because of the war between Gloria and Criris, it seems that the church is making a move to Flovius and trying to have an alliance with said territory. It seems it is a move out of fear though, since with the territory of Gloria winning the battle with such a kingdom on the level of Criris, it just projects that the Kingdom of Tempest has quite a lot of military power and asset, with it only being the strength of 1 or 2 territories worth of military. Quote. True. But from the rumors, Princess Avalon hasn't accepted the request for an alliance though, and seems to try to bring it up to the meeting as well. The Flovius territory was too, currently in a very high place now, with one of the princesses taking charge of said territory and being modeled after her taste. Said territory became one of the highest standing lands in the world, with many wanting to visit or even live there as well. So to the common folk, the idea of just trying to have an alliance with such a powerful territory is just common sense. But to the higher-ups, such as the rulers, they still need to discuss the potential disasters that this could entail, since it was no secret to them that the church hates the Tempest royal family for what they did back then, or more especially Rimuru's actions that destroyed a large part of their capital. Because of this, they do fear they would use this alliance to get one over them. Of course they could also use a contract, but even then, there are still loopholes in contracts, such as an alliance for one, so they can't be trusted in this large of a scale, especially with the scheming experts like the church. Then have you heard of the new projects that Princess Rimuru has been conducting recently? Right. It has just been a month since the end of the celebration of their war against Criris. And she is already back to work and doing a lot of things already. Quote. After the war, and after the end of the celebrations, Gloria didn't rested for long, with them going back to business, with Rimuru expanding more and more of her projects, which has caused the state to become ever-changing and evolving as a result of the many construction jobs that was currently taking to various places. And with her trip to Criris and meeting with the king and having secret talks with him also didn't help certain rumors from propping up, like the whole war was a mere stage to raise her army's values in the grand stage and such, and it didn't help that the two has been working on multiple projects as of recent. Even the 2 princesses has met one another, with many sources verifying the 2 has been meeting in both the kingdom of Criris and the territory of Gloria. Well, it didn't really matter much to the citizens though, since the prosperity that she has shown in her territory has been going to the rest of the kingdom as well, with the company that Rimuru once founded has also been revealed as well, which is largely thanks to the Estage spy and information network, but Rimuru didn't really mind and just moved out the whole HQ back to Azure. With her secret operations being revealed, she left the kingdom of Estage to their own devices and started to expand their business from there, and one of their businesses is construction, so naturally, with them being a state-owned company and being personally managed by Rimuru, it quickly became one of, if not the best construction company in the world, with many territories and kingdoms purchasing their services to build their construction projects for them. There was even rumors that they were inventing a new form of transportation as well, with them spending quite a bit of money somewhere, and them building factories and such. But currently all of them are all state secrets though, so nothing was known about it, other than being transportation. I heard from my son that is working for the company that Princess Rimuru founded, that the transportation that they were working on would revolutionize the world itself, and bring prosperity to the entire world itself. Oh. Is that truly safe to reveal? From what I heard, people are being punished if they say too much about the project, you know. Another replied, worried for the man's son, causing him to laugh a little. Oh, you worry too much, but what you said is true though, but from what my son said, one can't say far too detailed things, but things like revolutionized is something that is allowed to say. Ah, I see. But still it seems that this kingdom would prosper even more, with the advent of this new rising stars. Don't you think so? Quote. Kingdom would prosper even more now. But they do also worry for what actions the other kingdoms would take because of this rising stars. Dot. 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 In a road that leads to the capital, there was a line of large carriages going down the road down to the capital of Tempest, with about 20 carriages and 60 horsemen around the group. It gave off the impression that someone important was inside one of these beautiful carriages. Fellow travelers and such, also felt the same way, with them instinctively moving to the side to let them through nicely. It was an instinct that they didn't know why they did what they did, but after seeing the insignia of the carriages and the knights, it caused them to immediately bow down to the ground in sheer respect and reverence. Greetings and safe travels. Her Excellency Lady Rimuru-sama. Quote. Such greetings became normal to the men that drives and guards the carriages with their horses, and in truth, it made them happy that they were getting respected, since after all, before they became a part of Tempest, they were looked down upon and seen as lesser beings, but now being a part of this great empire and being ruled upon its own princes caused them to become immensely prideful of this fact and gave their eternal loyalty to Rimuru Arcadia Gloria Tempest. And in the middle of this carriages currently house Rimuru Tempest, with her currently hard at work to further her territory's prosperity even further, despite the servants that wanted to do her job and let her have some fun in the capital. She rejected them all, seeing herself unworthy of their loyalty, and so Rimuru decided to work even in the capital so that she would be able to work the 3 years in which she out exploring the world. And so, currently with her inside this carriage was her trusted maids, Seal and Shizuki, with them helping her duties any way that they can, with them just usually preparing snacks and drinks for Rimuru to eat and drink, while seating across from her is Rosari, who has decided to inform her of the changes that has happened and their financials, and besides her is Fuka as well, with her deciding to join to help her dear baby sister and to also know the state of Gloria. Outside of the carriages is the elite Knights of Gloria, with them being led by the duo of Chloe Aubert and Altimia Gustav Tempest, which has also draw in the curious looks of the people that they passed by with their strong aura and sheer beauty attracting the people's gaze away from the carriages. Rimuru-sama, your meeting with the king and princess of Kreris is about a month away. Should I give them a message that might be changed? Quote. No, Rosari, keep it that way, especially since this noble meeting wouldn't really change our plans that much. So think of this as his vacation that you can fully enjoy. Hi. Rimuru-sama. Quote. Fuka, who was working along with Rosari, suddenly have a thought appear on her head, which has caused her to look and asked Rimuru about it. What do you think the meeting would be about, Rimuchan? She asked, causing Rimuru to just smile lightly and just finished 5 of her paperwork before answering. I'm sure most of the conversation would be about me, with me leaving my territory for quite some time, and with our war with Kreris and now working with them. I'm sure the nobles would press us to know what we're doing, or to just simple try to oust my position in Gloria. What? Quote quote. Rosari and Shizuki yelled out in shocked at her words, with both Seal and Fuka only staying silent, since they know that isn't even possible or even feasible to do. Rimuru's skills as a ruler is immense, with her very much being able to raise the entire territory to become one of the richest territories out there, and is still fast climbing to the top as well. Then there's also Rimuru's popularity in the territory. Because of her festivals and her policies to have as much freedom as possible for the people, the citizens of Gloria has started to see Rimuru as their only leader, and add in the fact that her own father is quite overprotective of her and gives her whatever she asked, also adds to her defense of being able to stick as the leader of Gloria. Of course, if they do able to oust Rimuru from her position, there are three likely possibilities that would happen. Firstly, the first possibility is the citizens would rebel and would even start a civil war against the kingdom itself, and considering their level of power and skill, and with them having Altimia and Chloe as well, and then 3 heavenly dragons protecting the territory, Gloria itself has a strong chance in actually overthrowing entire government itself. Secondly, to whoever noble that becomes the head of Gloria. They wouldn't really have any form of power whatsoever, they would only have power in name only, since by this point in time, the entire citizens of Gloria has complete servitude towards Rimuru Tempest, since she is the one that changed their entire course of history, from being the lowly citizens of Estage, to now being the proud citizens of Gloria. No one would follow another noble or assign head of state, they would all follow Rimuru Arcadia Gloria Tempest. And thirdly, if a noble were to see the territory's expenditures, they would mostly likely cancel out the miscellaneous spending, which is quite numerous. In truth, the spending of the territory is immensely high because of the rules and laws that Rimuru created, which would be mostly branded as useless and would taken off to save money, since about 47% of the territory spending is all about having a fun time, like festivals and things of said nature, so most would definitely cut it away, or just reduce the spending simply because of how much Gloria spends on it, with some aren't even turning a profit or just aren't doing anything for the territory. Which is quite ironic since the third one is by far the most important, since Rimuru made those spendings so that the citizens of Estage could live life the way they want to, and to have their own cultural identity as well. It's because of that those laws and rules that Rimuru made gave rise to the current power it is today, and why they love the territory of Gloria so much as well. Since it allowed them to create their own identity, and Rimuru Tempest was the one who spearheaded the whole movement of their own discovery without her own control over the matter. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the door of the carriage, causing them to be silent, and for Rimuru to speak. Who is it? Quote. It's me Rimuru-sama, I have come to report our current situation to you, can I come in? Quote. Very well, Almatia, you can come in. With that the door then opened, causing them to see Altimia riding her horse, with her getting closer and closer, until she crouched down on her saddle and then jumped inside the carriage, with her kneeling down. Rimuru-sama, it seems that there are some noble entourage blocking our way to the capital, what should we do? Altimia reported in calm voice, but to those that are familiar with her, they could easily tell that she was seething in anger at the clear sign of disrespect towards her master and lady, which was very much shared by her fellow servants as well, and even the knights that was riding beside the carriages was seething with rage as well, and was simply staying put to hear what their lady would order them to. Rimuru hearing that, wasn't really offended and more so looked more intrigued, more than anything else really. This is the second time that I was disrespected by a noble that knows of my position. Rimuru thought back to the good olden days when no one truly respected her as a demon lord, especially when the Council of the West tried to kill him and acquire his territory. Oh, humans, so greedy that it becomes a complete joke. Whatever I'm going to do with you. But she let such thoughts go away for a moment, before answering Altimia's question and sent her orders. As Princess of Tempest and head of Gloria, I can't appear to be easily angered by this transgression. I shall let it slide, for now use wind magic to create a path, have Chloe protect the wind path, since she is quite skilled in magical defense and spells as well. Hi. Quote. With that Altimia then jumped back to her horse, while also closing the door shut. With that she then went to the knights and informed them of the decision of their master. To the noble entourage that was blocking the way for the princess, there were about 100 knights stationed around the carriages, with them all being high class both in power and technique, and with them having the highest class of weapons and armor that money could buy. They were all confident that they could even handle the Knights of Gloria. Especially since their lord is with them, the head of the Bale noble household, and is said to be the top noble house, with it being number 1 out of the 72 noble clans in Tempest, of course that isn't counting the archdukes that surround the lands of Tempest. Currently the head of the Bale house Atticus Bale, is also said to be the greatest head of the clan, with him being able to raise his clan and its richest to about 50%, despite its already well-established position and power in the kingdom. Of course, much like other nobles, even he desired a position even higher than himself, and that is the position of Archduke. If only His Majesty didn't deny my request of being the head of those 3 territories. He thought back to that faithful meeting in which the nobles was arguing with each other, on who would be best suited to be Archduke of those territories. He still remembers it. When he placed himself to be an Archduke, no one truly went against him, too fearful to actually try to go against the kingdom's strongest ordinary noble in the kingdom. No one would go against his wishes, even the king would need to listen to his words, that was how powerful he truly was. Since his control and power was so high, that he alone could even rival the political strength and might of the great royal family of Tempest, that is something that he believes wholeheartedly, and when he finally becomes an Archduke, his power would rise even more, with it allowing him to acquire his own kingdom and its citizens far away from the watchful eye of the royal family, and announced his separation from the kingdom when acquired enough power and influence. It was his grand plan, and he planned to conquer the entire nation of Tempest as his own as well, fully believing that he could do so. But when he was celebrating one of his plans was finally going to start, the king entered the room and announced, "The ones that would be the rulers of the 3 new territories and become the 3 new archdukes are my children, Kevin, Avalon and Rimuru, that is all." Just like that, his plans was all destroyed by a single choice from their king. To that end many nobles protested, especially Atticus, who wanted to become an archduke for so long. He even silently threatened the king just to get what he wants, but of course he was rejected yet again. Atticus Bale, you said you have the power to be able to start a civil war. Quote. No, that wasn't what I meant, my king. Oh, good. Since I don't want to destroy half of the nobility here after all. Just like that, various nobles that promised to be by his side, and even signed a contract to be allies, all but quit his alliance with him, despite the dire consequences of their actions. With that, just like that, Atticus Bale lose all of his power by a single threat from their king, and since then he learns that the power he acquired and gained was just because their king allowed it, and that just as easy taking a candy from a baby, easily steal one's power and influence away as well. Just like that, he has started once again try to acquire more power, by battering up with each child, but much like their father before them, they simply dismissed his words and just went their own way, especially the youngest, she didn't even look at her in the eye, and when she does looked, she merely looked at her like he is beneath her. How arrogant. Single quote. He still remembered that day. It's because of that, he hoped and prayed the most that Gloria would fall in the near future, but as time went on and on, he just continued to hear how Gloria was improving by leaps and bounds, with their rate of improvement being the highest in history. The more he heard the successes of the territory, the more and more he destroyed his office out of anger for the youngest, but when news spread that the youngest child would leave her territory and go on a journey, Atticus immediately set out to Gloria to try to batter up with her subordinates and get her ousted by them and acquire the territory for himself. But alas, that didn't happen at all. For one, all of them, even the citizens, was all devoted to Rimuru's rule, to the point that when he posed the question of having someone more experienced and old manage the territory, they immediately shot down his idea without remorse at all. And when he did meet up with Rimuru's secretary, he decided and planned to seduce her, to at least have some inside information in the inner workings of Gloria, but once again he was shot down, since when he started to flirt, he was immediately kicked out of the castle. Despite his status a noble being higher than hers, he was treated like that of an ordinary commoner, with the butlers and guards even throwing him out of front door. And when Criris decided to invade the territory of Gloria, he expected them to ask reinforcements for help. To this he even prepared for it, with him housing the largest armed force in the nobility of the kingdom and with them all being highly trained and equipped, he planned to send them all to Gloria, and seeing that he put in the extra work have them be indebted to them. But alas, no such request came, and before he knew it the war was already over with Gloria taking the crown and winning the war. And so, he tried this trick just to get them riled up in the meeting and do some mistake. Sure, this is quite obvious and petty, but sometimes, the most obvious and most petty actions are the most efficient moves to use. Hey, with this, I can finally one-up her. Single quote. Suddenly, he was thrown out of his thoughts, when he heard a knock on his door, causing him to regain his composure a little bit and then asked the soldier outside of his carriage. What is it? Quote. Sir, I don't know how to say this. But, a wind road appeared before us. Quote. What? Quote. Hearing the report, Atticus was in shock, And with that he unceremoniously opened the door and saw a path of wind has indeed been created, with it being formed and going above them, but the thing that caught his attention was that the path was being formed as they ride, while the path behind them disappeared as they. Seeing this, Atticus angrily stomped the ground at the sign of his attempt failing miserably. Damn you, Tempest! He yelled out to the carriages, with the Knights of Gloria just ignoring him as always. But while he was looking at them, something fell, catching Atticus' attention, and when he got closer and closer, he finally realized what it was, but it was too late for him to move, and what it was simply. It was a horse's shit. With it landing firmly to Atticus' face. Hey, good boy, a knight said to her horse, patting it for its good honest work, causing the knight besides her to sigh in exasperation. You know, you shouldn't have done that. It could increase Her Majesty's work, you know. The knight said, while trying himself not to laugh, with the rest who saw what happened also trying to not laugh, trying to be professionals here. But of course, keyword is trying, because of their shaking bodies and their stiff laugh coming out, once in a while, they were failing miserably from looking professionals at all. Of course both Altimia and Chloe realized what happened, but instead of reprimanding the knight, they just approved of her actions. That should serve that noble right, it is their fault for trying to stop Rimuru-sama's track after all. Good. I might raise the girl's paycheck when this mission is over. With that, the ride was smooth sailing from there, with them arriving in the capital ahead of schedule, but still styled it in the end with them flying in the heavens above and then landing firmly to the ground.